Want some tips to cut down your content production and content marketing time? Well, I hear you. Keep listening, because in this episode, I'll share 5 time-saving tips for your business. Now, this is a community-powered episode which was recorded live and features speed networking and a Q&A session with live business owners who joined our B2B Podcast Party. Sign up for our next monthly B2B Podcast Party at simplecreativemarketing.com/podcast party. That's simplecreativemarketing.com/podcast party, and you'll have a chance to appear on our upcoming episode. All right, stay tuned as those tips are coming right after this introduction.
Welcome to Authentic Influence with host Anthony Chansamuth, the show where we get real and share the stories and struggles, strategies and tactics of successful influencers and entrepreneurs so that you too can take action to create the life and business that you choose. And now over to Anthony.
Okay, so welcome all to the first inaugural official B2B podcast party. This is a event, and I wanted it to be an event. And I called it a party for a reason, because I want us to have fun. Okay, I don't know how your week's been, but mine's been terrible. I've been bedridden pretty much for the whole week.
Oh, no! Did you pick up the big C?
Something like that. Yeah, just so recovering, and I'm just glad I have my appetite back, which is the most frustrating thing for me. So for intents and purposes, this is an opportunity for us to learn together, to network, to have a bit of fun, and really and connect and learn all about what great work you're all doing as well, and be able to share with each other. Okay, so this is being recorded, and it's going to be a monthly, I'm intending this to be a monthly event where I invite my community members, listeners to the Authentic Influence podcast and our Authentic Influence Facebook group to come together and really just jam and have some fun. Okay, and these episodes are recorded. They go on to our podcast. So as you all know, as you registered, part of this particular event will be an opportunity for you to practice your 60-second pitch, and that will also mean that your pitch will go onto our podcast and in front of our audience. So if there's anyone there who likes what you do or wants to connect with you, they will. Okay, so let's just run through the format for today. Excuse me.
Are you okay for me to take photos that I can put on social media?
Absolutely. Great question. Yes, go ahead. If you want to do any photos, screenshots, sharing on socials, all for it. There are a couple of hashtags there behind my head. So B2B Podcast Party, and then also New South Wales Small Business Month. This event is, I'll get to our partner in a moment, but let's do that now, actually. So I wanted to say thank you and a shout out to our partner for this particular event. It's New South Wales Government, who are running during March. This is the last day, New South Wales Small Business Month, and the theme for this year is to rebuild, recharge, and renew. Right, and so when I pitched this event as a partnership, my goal was to help businesses do these 3 things. Right, and connecting people is the way that I do it. That's just my way of helping us to recharge and renew. Okay, so yes, if you are posting things, you can just use those hashtags, and that would be really appreciated. So today's call will go like this. All right, we're going to start off with a 10-minute content marketing tip. So I'll be just teaching you one tip that would be useful for you in terms of using content to grow your business. Then we'll move on to a Q&A related to that particular tip. If you have any particular questions, I'm going to open the floor to one or two of you to pose a question related to what I teach, and I'll answer that. And then we'll move over to the speed networking round, and each one of you will have 90 seconds to pitch your business. And I've given you a framework. Now, can I just check that you have received the framework and you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I haven't, I don't think.
Okay, that's right.
That?
All good, Joanna, because I have a slide for you. So that's
good. Okay.
It's all perfect. So, you know, being the gracious host, I made sure I had that ready for anyone who didn't have it. And then at the end, we'll have an open Q&A. And I know you all submitted, or not all, most of you submitted some questions around content marketing to me when you registered. I'm going to, again, open the floor for anyone to actually bring that question to this group and raise it, you know, in the session, and we'll have 10 minutes to answer a couple of questions there as well. Okay, so that's the format. We're gonna get straight into it. All right, ready for that? Thumbs up, you ready to go? Or type in the chat, let's go.
Let's go. Oh,
I love it. Okay. All right, now I ask that you mute yourself in the teaching component, and then when it's time to open mic, I'll let you know, hey, Mike, so you can open your mic and chat. Okay, but this is for, remember, whilst this is a teaching session, you have live people on here with you, right? So feel free to use the chat as much as possible. You know, talk about it, what you're doing, raise questions, you know, add insights, comments, experiences that you've had. We've got some really powerful content marketers on here. Erica has her own show. Natasha has been doing this for a very long time and has a very super successful multiple businesses, and we've got a lot to learn. She's probably the guru to me, but you know, my challenge is to highlight all your strengths, and Cheryl's been amazing at content as well recently. So let's go. All right. What's going on in my slides? Okay, here we go. So today's topic for our 10-minute tip is 5 ways to save time producing content. One of the common threads that kept coming up with some of these questions that each of you submitted when you registered was, how do I create a system around my content? How do I produce more, you know, better output or more consistent output of content? How do I use my content better, whether it's to generate leads or to generate sales or new business, right? And so for me, what it was screaming in my head when I was reading through the questions was time, right? I don't have a lot of time, and what can I do to make sure that I'm getting, you know, the best for, you know, ROI or the best investment in, if I'm producing content, how do I make sure that that actually supports my business and doesn't become a black hole trap where all I'm doing is content and I don't actually serve clients, which can happen, right? So some of you have teams, some of you are doing it solo. That's all good. So these tips will apply regardless of what situation you're in, okay? First thing, you really want to, I'm going to give you the tips first, sort of the 5, and then I'm going to break down each one of them at a time, okay? So, and I only have 7 minutes to do it. So if I rush, it's because it's designed to be this way. So yeah, definitely have a planner, a schedule to plan your content in advance. You want to create content for all stages of your customer value journey, and I'm going to explain what that is. If you've never heard of that, you might have heard of something similar. Okay, you want to create and use templates for recurring types of content, right? So if you have an email newsletter that goes out on a weekly basis or on a fortnight or every month, or if you've got social media posts that you do quite frequently, you know, there are tools and templates, right? So definitely encourage the use of templates where possible to cut down the thinking time involved in producing content, and then just plug and play, right? And I'll show you an example of that. Repurposing is the huge one. This is the biggest time saver that you can do. You take one article, one podcast, one video, and then you turn it into 3, 5, 10, 20. I've seen someone do like 40 pieces of content from one original source content. So that is the secret sauce for saving time. And the 5th one is, you know, you can hand it over to someone else to take care of it for you, right? That's the ultimate, which is to outsource the content creation. And that comes with pros and cons, of course. So we can talk about that, right? So let's go deeper, right? So feel free to screenshot this. There will be a recap slide in a moment on all 5 of these. Okay, so the first one I talked about was making sure that you have a content schedule. This is just, I think for all of us who have been in business for some time or have ever worked in a role that requires some kind of scheduling or project management or these sort of things. I was a project manager for almost a decade before I came into the world of business. And it's just essential. What's that saying that, if you don't plan, you plan to fail, or something like that? It goes along those lines. Content's the same, marketing is the same. And I'm gonna, at some point, I hope Natasha shares her story and how she does marketing, because it's been an engine that's been running for over a decade, and consistently, like there's, and without fail. And so, the quickest way a great way to save time is to plan in advance, right? So if you sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to block, right? There's 2 types of planning. One is, what's the content going to be? Right, and then secondly is, when am I producing the content, right? So you need time to do both. I like to do it in 90-day cycles. Cheryl's aware of this. So what I like to do is say, okay, over the next 3 months, what are the key pieces of content that we need to produce to speak to our target audience, our prospective buyer, right? And then let's lay that out on a calendar, like what we're seeing on the screen here. All right, literally just go, okay, each day, what's going out on what day, what type of content is it going to be, right? And now that's one thing. The second thing is, you want to block time in your calendar to make sure that you're actually doing that. So, anything we don't schedule, anything we don't block into our calendars, I don't know about you, but for me, if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen, right? So I need to make sure that I'm allocating mental space and time for the creation of the content. And then let's talk about the types of content to focus on, especially if you're trying to use it to grow your business. A common mistake I see from a strategic point is that, there are business owners out there or marketing people who are producing content that just doesn't translate to business growth. Okay, so if you're out there producing industry reports and things like that, unless your buyers are buying industry reports, it's probably not going to help you, right? It's not going to help you with acquiring the next customer, right? So you need to think about, I'm going to give you a framework here because I love frameworks for those of you who know me. The 3 Ps. First of all, you want positioning content, okay? The goal and objective of positioning content is to build credibility and position you as a leader in your industry, all right? Or in your vertical, in your niche, whatever you want to call that, okay? And here are different types of positioning content, okay? So most of you would know I'm huge on case studies. Like I'm the case study guy. People are starting to call me, and this is because it's a type of positioning content, right? Testimonials, media features. If you've done guest podcast appearances, guest blog posts, guest articles, right? If you've done partner collaborations, I don't think Teresa has joined us yet. I recently interviewed Teresa, who is just an amazing partnerships person. Erica's nodding. She listened to the episode. If you haven't heard that, jump back to that episode. I think it was released 2 weeks ago. Teresa Tarlington just totally breaks down how do you create these fantastic, profitable commercial partnerships, and what a partner's looking for when you're trying to do that. Okay, so positioning content, one type of content you definitely need to be creating. The second type of content is problem-solving content. Okay, here's where you identify problems your audience is facing, and then you offer solutions they may need in your content. Right. And so these are your, you might know them as how-to articles, right? I'm going to go a step further and say they need to be SEO optimized articles. If your objective is to attract people to your business, to your website, and then on your website have them book a call with you, submit an inquiry, buy something, download your in-depth guide, whatever it may be, you need to make sure that your content, your articles that you're putting out there are optimized for search engines. Okay, so SEO optimized articles. All right, we want to have in-depth guides, or what's called content clusters. Okay, and this is an SEO term. Our SEO expert isn't on the call today. I think it's a bit too late for him. But and so something he talks about, in an episode of the podcast where I interviewed Gert Merlach, he talked about content clusters, this idea of, you want to, if the only piece of content you could produce in 90 days was one thing on your website, create what's called a content cluster. So if you just quickly type in a chat, what are you the expert of? If you were to be an expert of something or known for something, what do you want to be known for? Type that into the chat, right? So then whatever you submit into, as your answer, okay, that is where you should start your content cluster. Okay, so if Cheryl is the, excuse me, the expert of outsourcing for property businesses, all right, then we need to have a in-depth guide or a content cluster which focuses on how to outsource or hire and train a VA or for real estate businesses, right? That would be, imagine if you had the best guide on the internet for that, right? And that's a problem because your clients are coming to you to buy that from you as a service. Therefore, that's what you'll be producing. Training, webinar, videos, great. And the fourth one here I've added is included is scorecard and quizzes. You're probably seeing more of these now pop up. You're probably aware of sort of Myers-Briggs quiz, those personality test things that we've been doing for years. Now it's kind of entering the world of business, and a lot of businesses are producing these because the good old 10, 20, 50 page PDF books, that ebooks we used to do 5 or 10 years ago, just don't cut it anymore. Like, how many of us have downloaded or submitted our email addresses to get an ebook and not even opened it up, not read it, not even bothered to? Everyone's nodding. Okay, so you'll relate. But give us a 10-minute quiz, right, with 10 questions. We can do that, and it's fun, and we get an assessment out of it to say, hey, this is where you are, and this is what you need to do next. And that's much more practical and useful for us, all right, than reading something and going, oh my gosh, right? Problem solving content. Okay, and now we switch over. The third piece of content is promotional content. Okay, so you want to let your audience know how to take the next step to work with you. All right, what do I do next, Eric? What am I doing, Andre? Like, I've read your awesome guide. What next? Okay, so here is a one-page brochure or a landing page. You can direct people to that. They can sign up for something, in exchange for an email address or a phone number. Maybe you have a limited time or a launch offer, right? So whatever, it depends what you're selling, of course. You might offer a free trial. A lot of us on here, because we're in the B2B world, we typically offer free consulting, discovery calls, these sort of things. And Natasha has quite a killer intro or next step, which is to actually attend a half-day or 3-hour workshop with her, and it's paid. So that's a signal if someone's paying to join you for 3 hours of your time. And that also, it really, I remember Natasha sharing that with me a few years ago, and it's still working. So it's awesome. You can have a demo if you have software or a product, or if you like, you can have an event, right? So, full transparency, this event, right, is a type of promotional content. Okay, it's like, come in, learn more about what I do and what I teach, and then next step from here is book a call with me, or ask me questions, and let's jump on a call 15 minutes and have a chat about how I can help you, right? So that's the 3 types of content: positioning content, problem solving content, promotional content. Okay, are we learning? Thumbs up. Yeah, excellent. Even the experts are learning. Okay, let's go. All right, now the third thing we want to talk about is creating content that is the second step was to create content for all stages of your customer value journey. Digital Marketer, if you've never been to their website, digitalmarketer.com, they created this idea of they repurposed the idea of a customer journey or a buyer journey, and then they called it the customer value journey, right? And I like that, because what that indicates to us as business owners and people running businesses is we have to provide value at every step of the journey, right? It's not about just producing content, just so we can acquire new business, but how can we actually add value at each step of the way? Okay, now the visual you're seeing on the screen breaks it down like a funnel. You've probably heard of the word sales funnel. Is that everyone's agreeing? Okay, great. If you haven't heard of it, let me know in the chat. I'll explain that. But if you think of a sift or a funnel, and for those of you who, my wife likes to bake. So for those of you who like to bake, you will know you put the flour at the top of the funnel, and then it pulls whatever lumps and things out of it, and you get fine flour at the bottom of the funnel, right? At the funnel. Okay. In a sales funnel, it's visualized the same way. We have the top of the funnel. So tofu is top of funnel. No, we're not talking about tofu that's in my fridge right now. Excuse me. And then, at this stage, really, your buyer or your prospective buyer is at that curious phase. They're in that research phase. Like, I'm interested. I have a problem that I need to solve. I'm doing some searches, whether I go to Google or I'm going to YouTube or wherever way I find you. And then, I'm looking at social media, right? And then, so the type of content you can produce here for this stage, right, is that awareness stage, is blog posts, right? And I talked about that. So you can do social media updates, you can do infographics, videos, podcasts, right? So these are kind of the types of content that's working really well right now where we are in 2022, okay? Then we move to the middle of the funnel. The majority of your site visitors will land at the top, or people who are kind of interested in what you're doing or starting to get to know you. Now, not all those people will move down to the next stage, but a percentage of them will, right? So they're the people who are more serious. Now we're at the middle of the funnel, right? And this is where we're really in that evaluation stage, right? I know what the problem is. I know that I need it solved. I've read some great blog posts at the top here. I've just watched a couple of your videos. I've heard some of your podcast episodes. I'm interested in diving deeper. And then we're coming in, and then now we're looking at, okay, I need some more detail about your specific solution, about how do I specifically solve the problem I'm looking to solve? This is where, excuse me, where you have a chance to really increase your positioning content, right? So we're giving ebooks and white papers. We're talking about reports. We're talking about guides, case studies, templates, and toolkits, right? I've worked with an accounting firm for the last few years, with helping them do their content. And one of their best performing pieces of content is they specialize in Xero accounting software. So we created a Xero toolkit for small business, right? And in that are a Google sheet that helps you work out your profit and loss. There is if you're looking to hire staff, there's a Google sheet that the team created, which helps you. You plug in your numbers and it works out when's the best time for you to hire your next staff member, right? Do you think that's useful for someone who's at that stage of consideration when they're like, I'm thinking of hiring someone, and I just want someone to help me work out when's the best time for me to do that, right? If you came along and said, well, here's a template for you to work it out, right? Instead of saying, go read this 10,000 word blog post, here's a template, right? You can work out it in the next 10 minutes, right? So that's very useful stuff for the middle of the funnel, right? You've got email courses, quizzes, webinars, list of resources. Okay, that's the middle of the funnel. Welcome, Kylie, for joining us. We're just going through some tips on how to save time with your content marketing, right? And then bottom of the funnel is you're going to look at, you're going to provide competitive comparisons. You want to provide details around what your product and service is. Customer stories and testimonials absolutely must be in this section. You want to give consultations if you can do that, demos, free trials. When I was coaching, I would offer free coaching, right? I would give them 30-minute to an hour session. I would coach them for an hour. And then I had something like 80% of people would then move on to a paid coaching program based on their experience, right? We live in a world of try before you buy. All right. Would you buy the cake if the person selling the cake didn't give you a sample first? And this is why they do that in the stores. You're walking through Westfields or wherever you are, and they offer you samples of the product. And because they know, right, for them, that's their marketing expense. They know, right, if we can just get people to taste the product, we'll get buyers, right? And so that's the way it works. I say so. The tip here is to create content for all levels of the funnel. Where I see a lot of mistake with small businesses, they focus so much on the top of the funnel, they neglect the middle, and they go straight to the bottom. So they have the piece of content that helps them sell, they have which is usually the sales page. They have the blog posts and whatever the videos and things going on at the top. They skip the middle, right? And the middle is important, right? You want to make sure that you have some pieces of content there that speak directly to the person who's ready to buy, okay? And they're just evaluating, right? Hope that's a helpful tip, okay? And let's move on. The third one we talked about was time-saving tip was to create and use templates for recurring types of content. Okay, so this is, you're looking at my Notion, a screenshot of my Notion page where I actually have a publishing schedule for my weekly newsletter. I've got a date, I've got, is it drafted, is it sent, the related Notion file, excuse me. And then, I plan this, we just have this as a rolling weekly event for myself, for my Janine, who's our admin person. She helps me do this, and then here's a template. So it's actually laid out in this way. I have an intro section where I write, hey, whatever, hey name, subscriber name, and then I've got that top section that's in white before the line is where I actually write in my sort of ants message for the week, and then I've got these 5 resources at the beneath it. So if you've seen my newsletter, you would recognize the format straight away because it's always the same. I don't play with this. I don't model it. I've done it the first time and went, that works. Okay, let's just keep that consistent. And so now I've combined this with the last tip, which is the outsource. But I kind of got my VA, who actually I found Janine through Cheryl and the Growth Hub. So shout out to Cheryl for that. And so we. Janine comes in and she does that here, this week's 5 resources. Janine populates that section for me. Okay, so we have a library, a list of resources that I add to it every single week. She goes in there, she picks 5 resources, she puts them in that section at the bottom, creates the introductory sections for each, and then I create the section at the top because only I can write that, she can't write that, and then I evaluate and review what she's done and make tweaks as required before I give it the green light. Then Janine moves forward and she schedules that into our ConvertKit, which is our email software, and away it goes, right? So that's how I've been able to systemize the newsletter on a weekly basis, okay? And I tell you what, before I did this, it was a nightmare to get consistent. I was like doing once a month. I dropped the ball for 3 months. At some point, I was going hard and did it weekly, but it wasn't until I created this simple system that I was able to get it. I've nailed it. We haven't missed an edition for the last 3 months, right? So that's the creating templates, right? That's number 3. Number 4 was repurpose, your content. So this is how I do it, right? You notice that we're doing this as a Zoom call, and I've done it this way for a reason. Okay, so I start off with a video at the top. So we have a Zoom video or Zoom recording. I usually do it as a Facebook Live for my podcast episodes, and then I send that to WordPress, right? I then send it to YouTube. I create snippets from that Facebook Live, five shorter videos. They go onto LinkedIn. Same thing, 5 shorter videos, they go into Twitter, right? And then we also send an audio file extract from that video into Dropbox, and that actually becomes the audio that goes onto my podcast. All right, so that's how we take one piece of content and we've turned it into 18 pieces of content. Okay. And of course there's Instagram, right? So that's the other place where we're promoting the podcast. All right. Now here's my little secret. I'm using a tool to do this and automate most of this process. Okay. The tool is called Repurpose, right? You can see the link on the screen here. It's simplecreativemarketing.com/repurpose tool. If you're someone like me who prefers to speak rather than to write things out, then definitely check out this tool. You can take a video, so you can record the video. You don't have to do a Facebook Live. I just like to do it that way because I like to interact with my guests and whatnot. But this system has been running for us for over a year. I'm at episode 73, I think, of the podcast, and it's all been done because of this system. right? And this is how we get it out, and it's how we've been able to grow it. Okay. So repurposing. Now let's say we take that video at the top and we flip it. And we go, okay, well, I'm not doing videos, and I'm creating articles. Excellent. Get an article at the top, right? You can then turn it into, instead of said, you could record with your phone, simple voice recorder, or use a tool like Otto. You can record you reading some of that article that becomes now an audio format, right? You can then give it to someone to turn it into a video format, or you can even use repurpose to take that audio and send it to YouTube as a video format, and actually create the template for you and makes a really quick and easy video, right? So there are tools that do this, and there's a smarter ways to go about repurposing. Okay, so that's tip number 4. And here's if you want to see the breakdown of how that all works and actually walk through it, there is a previous episode of the podcast you can check out, which is repurposing content, how to turn one video into 18 pieces of content on social media. Just head over to simplecreativemarketing.com/podcast, and you can see that there. All right, so final one. All right, we're flying through here. Outsourcing. All right, so this is the final step, for those who, if you're at that stage and you've got the budget to do so, and you're saying, well, I don't really want to write all these articles, but I know I need to do these SEO optimized articles every month. I need to do these case studies on a regular basis because I've got these great clients, but I haven't really shared their stories yet. And you really need to be doing those, right? So at simplecreativemarketing.com, this is my business. Obviously, we do both. We have team members that produce case studies and articles for our clients. We do email series, landing pages, lead magnets, all of these things. So now you don't have to outsource to me. Certainly, there are other companies that do that as well. But this is tip number 5 here is you really scratch for time and you just prefer to focus on what you do best. And you want to work with someone who's qualified and has the expertise to help you, then check out, whether it's agencies or businesses like mine that can do this kind of work. All right, we recommend that. Okay, so quick review: 5 ways to save time producing content. 1, use a content calendar to plan your content in advance. Number 2, create content for all stages of your customer value journey. Right. Number 3, create and use templates for recurring types of content, such as email newsletters, social media posts, even blog posts. When we write blog posts for our clients, we have a structure and a format that is already, it's almost like a checklist, right? So it has, your header, it has your subtitle, it has your opening paragraph, it has your, excuse me, and we work through a checklist. The checklist has about 40 items on there, so I'm not going to show it to you right now. You just get overwhelmed. But that's what we do, and our writers go through that process, and then our editors go through and clean that up before it goes back to our clients who review the drafts. They give it the okay, and it goes up on their site. So that's but that's a template, right? We couldn't do that as fast as we can, as consistently as we can without the template. Right? Repurpose one article or podcast or video into multiple pieces of content. And tip number 5 here is to outsource your content creation. Okay, so that's 5 ways to save time producing content. I'm going to flip it over to you in our live audience here. Anyone got a question related to anything I've just shared? And you can open your mic. Let's go with Joanna. And Joanna's got her wait, Joanna, I can't hear you.
Pardon me.
Hi.
Hi. I can't recall how you pronounce your name. How do you pronounce your name?
Anthony.
Anthony. Thanks, Anthony. So yeah, thanks for all the your presentation and the information. Is really useful. And my question is about how much content in the newsletter, because I find I'm not sure, but I'm wondering whether I'm over-servicing.
So let's understand the situation. So do you have an existing newsletter that you're putting out? What's the frequency?
Yes. Like you said, once a month at the moment.
Okay, great. And how long is it currently or previous?
It's pretty long. I mean, the last one had at least, I can't remember, 4 or 5 different articles trying to offer value as well as make offers. Yep. So trying to get that balance right. But yeah.
So it's one of those how long is a piece of string type questions, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really comes down to is everything on the newsletter providing value and answering a particular question that you know is being asked by your audience? And you can actually, if you've got, whether it's clients or friends or whoever is on the newsletter, or even just people who haven't read the newsletter yet, who are your mates, so who, you can give them a copy of the newsletter and say, can you just have a look at that and give me feedback? You can even share it with me later. Just forward me one later, and I'm happy to give some feedback. My take on this is, because I kind of juggled with this question as well when I started, and I looked at what was happening in my industry, in the world of marketing and sort of entrepreneurship, and so there are two standout types of newsletters. One is, if anyone is registered to or subscribe to Tim Ferriss and his newsletter, he's got 5-minute Fridays, 5 bullet Fridays. So on Friday, he sends an email out, 5 bullet points, and they're just resources. This is a book I've read and recommend. This is a podcast or music I'm listening to. This is, the latest. Now he sells supplements, so he will often recommend a supplement that he's using or he's selling, and so they're very, if Tim Ferriss and you listen to his podcast and stuff, so you kind of know that's what he's into, and you're probably into some of those things too. So I never find those things a waste of time, because I'm more like, I'm interested. I'm subscribed for a reason, because I'm interested in what he's going to send me. So people subscribe to you, Joanna, then they know what you do, right? Ideally, and then they know, okay, if I'm subscribing to you, that you're going to be sending me information that relates to something that I'm interested in. And provided that you do that, then that's value, right? When it becomes too much is when you stray away from the what's in it for them question. Like if you read through your draft and you go, okay, what are they getting from this, right? And I've cut complete paragraphs of things I've written. Like I've had a newsletter one time where I wrote over 1,000 words for my opening paragraph, and I just went, what am I really trying to say here, right? If I were to do this as a bullet point format, how could I summarize this? And that's exactly what I did. I took that 1,000 words and I cut it down to 5 bullet points, and I felt, okay, that's much more concise, and that my audience, whoever's reading this, if they've got, maybe they're flicking on their phone during lunch or in a break or wherever, on the train, and they're just going, that's good. I can, take away something very quickly in 2 minutes. I got something useful from that newsletter. I'll come back next time, right? So that's what those are kind of the considerations I'd have for your newsletter. How much time does your audience have to read? If they're retired couples that have a lot of time, then certainly you can have much more longer narrative type content. But if they're in there to learn something from you, give me one tip that I can walk away with this week that's practical, right? Or one resource that I can go listen to, then address that. Does that help?
Yeah. I think so. It's really, it's still a question. I might send it to you and be great. Be most appreciative to get your feedback.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you. Okay, does anyone else have a question around what I just shared? Okay, Andre, yes.
Anthony, it's more about Johanna's as well. What would be an ideal regularity of sending out newsletters? My one is going out roughly about every 7 to 10 days.
Right.
Would you have a general answer? So I'm not sending too long ones. I try and reduce it to about maybe 5-minute read and a video.
Yep.
And then they can basically just choose whichever they prefer. And what is your opinion?
What's my opinion on
regularity of newsletters?
Okay, great. Yep.
What's an ideal setup so they hear about you, you're in front of them, but not too into their face?
Awesome question, Andre. So how often and why should we send newsletters? All right. So this is something that I encourage all businesses do. Even my local cafe, I went across the road to him and said, do you have a newsletter? He said, no. I said, you should send one. Biggest, worst opportunity, I've seen, your local cafe. If you go into your local cafe and get your coffee or your tea or whatever, and you ask them, do you have an email list? And they say no, they're really killing their businesses, right? Because coffee, who doesn't want free coffee? You say, hey, sign up for my newsletter, I'll give you a free coffee. Who's going to say no to that, right? And then I'm going to send you discounts once a month to come back into our store and buy a coffee, right? Now, back to your point, Andre, what you're doing, obviously you're not selling coffee, but in terms of frequency, at a minimum, once per month, right? Because you want to be that friend who shows up at least once a month and says hello, because then you still remember who your friend is. The friends that don't talk to you for 6 months, you're like, oh my gosh, where the hell did you disappear to? And then, for me, I focus on weekly, because that level of consistency means I'm popping up in their inboxes once a week, and they have the option to unsubscribe if it's too much. They have the option of continuing and consuming more if it's enough. Or just for some of our subscribers, they just archive them, archive the emails, and they come back in their own time when they're ready to read them, right? But they know there's value there. So this ties into Joanna's question. It all comes down to what type of value are you presenting in your content, in your newsletter, right? So if you design, now here's the question, in your newsletter, when you're writing your newsletter, is it about Andre or is it about the reader? Right? Because if it's all about you, right? Now it depends. If you're a celebrity and let's not get into a Will Smith conversation based on what happened last night. If they're there to learn about you and your journey, great. But if they're there to learn about themselves and to grow and to develop, and I know that's sort of the purpose of your business, Andre, and to transform, then imagine that you provided a transformational tip every single time they open their email, right? One thing that they could do that could go away and give them some insight, an activity they could do that pushes them to the edge of their boundary, and that puts them on that discomfort level when they're like, oh my gosh, I'm really about to transform. Because we all know here on our call, we all love personal development, is the best transformation happens on the edge of our comfort, right? And so now you could share stories about you and what happened in your life and your business. And then from there, what's the lesson? And always end with, here's the lesson for you, right? So they can then walk away with, okay, wow, like that's I didn't see that in that way, or here's something that I can go and test with my kids or my parents or my business owner, my business partner, wherever, right? So come back to frequency, minimum once a month, but just focus on what's the takeaway they're going to get from that, each one. And you know what the takeaway is, because when you do the subject of the email, it should be clear what the takeaway is in the subject, right? And so I make sure that, hey, if you're struggling with this, read this, right? And I've done that with my email subject line. So people open it up and go, yep. And it's only going to be the people who struggle with that thing who are going to open it, right? So for everyone else who aren't struggling with that thing, they're going to skip it. And that's okay, but they're still subscribed. They haven't unsubscribed from you, right? So map out, this comes back to your customer journey. At each stage of their journey, what specific challenges and problems are coming up, and then map out for each newsletter that you write, tackle one struggle, right? And you could literally map out 12 weeks or 12 months of newsletter in one sitting, right? And that's actually a good way to go about it. Does that help, Andre?
Yes, I'm on the right track, it looks like.
You
Thanks.
are.
I always, I have stories in every one of them, and there's always that learning is packaged into it. So
yes,
I really drive it into their subconscious mind.
That's it, and I know that's on the level that you work, because you're a mindset coach and you work people on that level. Beautiful, excellent. Okay, so thanks for the Q&A, folks. We're going to move on. All right, so now it's time to get uncomfortable. All right, we're going to jump into our speed networking session. You're going to share your 60 to 90 second pitch, and I'm giving you a format. I've given you a format. And you just use the follow format, right? This is just going to make it easier for people to understand what you do and how you do it, and it's also going to minimize you from waffling, right? And that's what we want to do, is just get to the point. And so everyone listening onto the call, okay, so you're going to share your pitch verbally. I'm going to open the mic to you, and then you're going to do your 60 or 90 second pitch. You also, once you've done that, drop in your contact details in the chat so people can actually connect with you, right? So whether it's a link to your LinkedIn, whatever way you want people to connect with you, great, do it. You can do it now, even before you do your pitch. For everyone who's listening, right? Listen to each pitch carefully. If you know someone who's a good fit for them, let them know in the chat, all right? And then make sure you follow up after the session if you want to connect, all right? The key is in the follow-up, right? And so this is your opportunity for sweet networking. Let's go. Here's the pitch template, all right? So you're gonna start off with, hi, you can screenshot this if you wanna do that. You can, if you're a quick memorizer, all good, right? I can bring it up on the screen again when you're doing a pitch, that's fine. So hi, I'm your name, your job title, from your company name, right? Now you're gonna tell us who your audience, your ideal customers are. So describe who your ideal customers are that have or struggle with a problem, right? So whatever the problem is that you solve, right? And then explain what you do, okay? And then, now here's the mistake a lot of people make when they come to speed networking. They typically try and pitch for clients, right? That's the biggest mistake you can do at a networking event. And I remember talking to Andre about this, I think, when we first met. The best way to get the most out of any networking event is to look for partners. Who are the people and businesses that can refer business to us, right? Because then you're entering with an intent of collaboration, right? So here, what I want you to do in your pitch is to tell us who your ideal partners are for your business. Who are the businesses that when you get together, you can refer them business, they can refer you business, because your clients are the same clients. You share clients, right? You work together. And this is a good way to go, right? So who are your ideal partners? And then what's the best way to reach you? The best way to reach us is, or to get started is, tell us how to do that. And then I've added 2 fun things to show people that you're a human. Okay, where do you call home? All right, and secondly is what's one random fact about you. Okay, so I will give my pitch first, so then you can see how this all works. Right, so I'm Anthony Chancemuth, Director of Simple Creative Marketing. So for coaches, consultants, and founders of services businesses that struggle with selling courses and services online, we produce compelling case studies designed to help close more sales. All right. The ideal partners for us are agencies, communities, publications, and podcasts that support $1 million plus services companies. The best way to learn about what we do is to download our free case study guide at simplecreativemarketing.com/case study guide. I call Sydney, Australia my home. And one random fact about me, and I think no one, maybe 1 or 2 people on here know, is that my first ever side hustle was teaching beginner salsa dance classes out of my living room in Toronto, Canada. And that was back in 2009. Okay, so there you go. That's my pitch. And who's going to put up their hand to be the first pitcher? Open your mic. Okay, Nat. Yes. This woman is amazing. Hey, Nat, let's go. Okay, so.
All right, I'll try to. I'll leave that slide up.
All right. Okay, here you go.
Hi, I'm Natasha Denman. I'm the ultimate 48-hour author. I help solopreneurs, thought leaders, speakers to write their very first books because they struggle with structure and how to go about publishing, and of course, not having a garage full of books. That means selling and monetizing their book. We do what we do because we love helping business owners create what I call your business card on steroids, which is your first book. Ideal partners for us are those people that coach others how to speak, so speaker coaches, because every speaker should have a book. Therefore, they'll get more gigs in that way. And also, I've been attracting a lot of other book coaches and mentors because they actually don't have a publishing solution. In-house, we have a publishing company called Ultimate World Publishing that does the books, and we've done over 605 books to date. I've been around for 12 years. So the best way to reach us or get started is through my introductory seminar that I've been running, as I said in the chat box, for the last 9 years, 35 times a year. And I'll post it in the chat box. I call Melbourne and the Gold Coast my home. I live in 2 states. And one random fact about me is that I'm a black belt in Taekwondo.
Oh my gosh, how kick ass and badass is Natasha. I didn't know about that. I should have known. So here you go. So see, when someone shares around a fact, then you can say things like, did you know, Nat, that I did Taekwondo for 5 years? So yeah, never got to black, I got to red actually. So There you go. We have something in common already amongst everything else we have in common. Love it, love it. Okay, who's going next? Unmute yourself and let's go. Cheryl.
Anyone put up their hands? I'm happy to do that.
It's
All good.
you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cheryl Leong, Chief Freedom Officer from the Growth Hub, and for buyers agents and property investment advisors that are doing everything in their business and missing out on opportunities and really struggling to scale their business. So we power property businesses with empowered virtual assistants and systems. Our ideal partners are business coaches and educators because they want to help businesses grow. And the best way to reach us and find out more about us is our YouTube page, The Growth Hub Global. And you can check out our case studies, which were created by Anthony, that show you how businesses have worked with us and the success that they've had with our virtual assistants. I call Sydney, Australia my home. And one random fact about me is I don't have a sense of smell. So my son and my husband are really happy about that.
Oh my gosh, love it. Shares, let's do something new. Can you pick who the next person is going to be?
Yeah, sure. Erica, over to you.
Go, Erica.
Boo for picking me. But anyway, I'm Erica. I am from South Carolina in the U.S. I'm a virtual summit strategist with Talk Virtual. I help event producers that struggle with the stress of tech from online event platforms. I help with strategies, automation, repurposing of your event content. My ideal partners are coaches, consultants, event planners, event producers, thought leaders, and trainers. And the best way to reach me is LinkedIn. And I think I said that where I'm from already. Something random about me. I'm a graphic designer.
There you go. Awesome. And excuse me. So on LinkedIn, it's Erica Bates. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, and pop that in the chat so everyone can connect with you. Erica's just a gun at virtual summits. So if you're thinking about hosting a virtual summit and you need some help and direction with doing that, trust me, I've done it before. It's a ton of work to do on your own. That's a great way to do collaborations, and a great way to grow our business is to do a virtual summit. But you want to have guidance, and Erica's the go-to for that if you want to have a chat with her. Okay, thank you, Erica. Who do you nominate to do the next pitch?
Andre,
let's go.
Andre.
Thanks. My name is Andre Hoffman, and I help business owners and individuals to restore self-worth and self-confidence to move rapidly toward goals. I'm a co-author of the How to Become a Six-Star Business Amazon bestseller book. My ideal clients are business owners, individuals who are stuck in an area of life that is connected to this self-worth area. These are typically in money, business, communication, leadership. And my clients started to call me the doctor of self-worth. So it's not my brand, it's theirs one. I find the root of this low self-worth mind virus with accuracy and speed. Then I access the mind to do instant surgery on these negative emotions, limitations to facilitate lasting change. And I connect them to their new identities, grander version of themselves to experience more peace, more creativity, joy, and fun. Reach out to me if you want to have a chat. I believe the real pandemic in this planet is this widespread self-doubt and low self-worth mind virus among individuals and business owners. They hold themselves back from who they really are. And I'm here to change that, to have more people stepping into their power in business and life. I call Australia, Sydney, my home. My details are in the chat. And the random fact about me, I'm a paragliding pilot and I love flying.
I love to fly. Can you just give us your website for those of us who are listening on the podcast?
I haven't got a website. I've got all social media and a Podia page
Okay, that's all right. So is it Andre Hoffman? Is that what's your handle for social media?
It's Doctor of Self-Worth, hashtag Doctor of Self-Worth. Maybe I should put that in.
Doctor of Self-Worth. Okay, yeah. Excellent. All right, thanks, Andre. Who do you put it in chat for others on the call, and who do you nominate next? What have we got left? I can't hear you.
I'll go.
Oh, it's Joanna. Okay, let's go.
Save the time. Hi, everyone. My name's Johanna de Ruyter, and I'm a public speaking coach from Fearless Communicators. And our ideal customers are speakers who fear public speaking. Really, people who struggle with anxiety or struggle with how to incorporate stories into their public speaking. Because a lot of people struggle with how to structure a story in a short, succinct way. So that's a real speciality of ours, that we help people not only structure the story, but then to speak the story. Because it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And it's not what you say, it's how you make people feel about what you say. So that's a real area of expertise in our work. The ideal partners for us are actually, Natasha, authors who want to learn how to pitch, because we have a very unique approach to pitching called stitching. A pitch and a story come together one seamless, deeply authentic and entertaining way to connect, not just connect with your audience, to get people into action. So the best way to reach me is through my email, Johanna at Fearless Communicators. I'll put it in the chat in a moment. The city I call home is the gorgeous Sydney, Australia. And a random fact about me is that I love the stage and improvising. I love to throw away the script and to go scriptless.
Wow. Okay. Great. I had a great visual of you on the stage. I'm like, oh, you have a background in theatre, Johanna? How did you get into sort of this world?
Absolutely. Yes, you wouldn't do improvisation if you didn't have well, you might actually. People do it for all sorts of reasons. Pardon me. Yes, I have a go scriptless. Yes.
That's brilliant. I could see already just some collaborations, natural collaborations happening within this group. I mean, Erica works with speakers. Obviously, Dasha helps them produce books. All need help with.
Love to talk.
Speak better. Yep. Please connect with each other in the chat. I think we've got Kylie as our last but not least person to go. Kylie?
Yes, I figured I'd go last considering I was off camera for the most part.
Welcome.
So thank you. I had some early meeting starts. Oh, I've hit the wrong button. I had some early meeting starts, so I apologise for that. So I was trying to avoid the camera, given I'm still out of bed.
No, we're all good. You don't look like you woke up.
I'm a keynote speaker, I'm a coach and a consultant. So I work directly with predominantly entrepreneurs, so people who are growing and scaling their business and are looking to, I'm 28 years in the business of storytelling, working at marketing and strategy director level at News Corp. So basically I take my expertise in, commercializing content to increase revenue and tell the story or the narrative around the specific areas of expertise. So I've done it internally in organizations in building brands. So what I speak on and what I end up coaching on predominantly is the power of storytelling to build your brand and accelerate growth and connect with purpose, but not just building the brand to connect with purpose, but how to align your people on that. I'm certified in the neuroscience of resilience. It's actually the access point for me in being able to enable people to build their brand. Is scientifically, it's been proven that vision and purpose are one of the key things that help people accelerate growth and do that. So suddenly over the last 2 years, I've been called on a lot to go do talks and coach senior leaders in organizations on how to connect with purpose using resilience. What's here? My podcast is called I've called myself the Uncharted Leader. I basically just went out in 2019 and did this podcast because I've got a commitment to transforming our view of leadership and, you know, recognizing that leadership is not something that you do once you get into a position, but it's something that you express. So my podcast started with that, and someone said to me, oh, you should put your title of your podcast and your name in your LinkedIn. And so suddenly now I'm just known as the Uncharted Leader, which has been very helpful because now all of my keynotes are on that. So I really do help people get alignment. I think the biggest issue across that group of people is, how do I really fulfill on my what I'm committed to and get the results that I'm committed to in my business and or my leadership or my life, so that it's all congruent, aligned with that purpose. And storytelling is a really interesting thread across all of that. So my ideal partners are really, I call it the 3 E's: executives, entrepreneurs, and emerging leaders. And the best way to get in touch with me is on LinkedIn. I call my home Sydney. I'm in Haberfield, which is about 10 minutes out of the city. And I suppose a random fact about me that most people don't know unless they read my bio is that I am Indigenous, because people go, really weird, you're white, you know, blue eyes. And but I'm an activist in the Indigenous leadership space. So I've got a big commitment to amplifying the voices of Indigenous peoples. And so, you know, my intention was certainly with the podcast this year is to get more of those voices onto the podcast and give them a voice.
Thank you so much, Kylie. Such a powerful message. That's Kylie Stone, the Uncharted Leader. I love that. And I like what you said about purpose using resilience, because I think that's, you know, I've been on this rant recently about, you know, using your greatest points of failure as your greatest strengths. And when we can see it in that way, you know, our biggest struggles are the reason why we're here. That gives us our purpose. You know, we can help others who are going through similar struggles, right? So fantastic. Thank you for joining us and for sharing what you do. Everyone, please connect if you need to. Feel like a resonance with what Kylie's sharing or what she does. Please connect with her via the chat. The chat's going crazy. Sorry, I don't have a second screen, so I can't see all the things going on in there. But I'm sure there's some tremendous stuff going on. We're going to. Now, that was a fun pitch round. Did everyone just thumbs up? Did you enjoy doing the pitch or hearing the pitches? Okay. Always good to practice your pitch, and we do this once a month, so you're welcome to come back and do it again if you want to next time. All right. So we're gonna wrap up with the open Q&A. I'm conscious of time, so we'll go for, you know, first of all, are there any pressing questions that anyone wants to have addressed around content marketing for your own business or something that you're doing? You know, any question that you would like some help with right now, something you're thinking about for your own marketing?
Go, Erica.
I didn't have a question, but I did want to give you a takeaway that I got when you were helping Andre.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Use the clips for email and point out the tips. I like that, so I wrote it down, and I'm telling it back to you because I thought it was a good tip.
Love it. Thank you. Okay. And on newsletters as well, because while we're on that thread, most of us, again, love to speak. We've got speaking coaches on here. You know, speak out your message. Sometimes I do that. I actually record it to my WhatsApp I'm using a tool called Otter, which is one of my favorite tools, and it automatically transcribes it. You know, and I speak for a couple of minutes. I give that to my assistant, or you can do it yourself, and you just clean up the transcript, and that becomes your newsletter. You're done. All right. Sometimes we get our best ideas. For me, when I'm walking around, like I'm in Glebe, so I walk on Blackwattle Bay, and I'm there by the water, and I just drop into this like peacefulness, and that's when I get thoughts, and it's like, oh, okay, let's talk about that, and that can be a newsletter, right?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes, a couple of things. So firstly, I apologise. I missed the first part of your presentation. I was actually really interested in the whole piece. And I've been very ineffective at trying to capture the content in the chat. So I apologise, everybody. I'm just so impressed by what everybody does. So if I haven't reached out to you, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, because I am actually interested in getting all your contacts. It's some extraordinary people in here. But I'm also interested, Andre, on working with you. I've been dabbling for a while in I just do not want to do my own stuff. I don't have time. I've got 3 kids. And so whilst the content has been incredibly valuable for me, I don't have any intention of doing the doing.
Right.
So I am actually interested in hearing from you after this. It's just a chaos week because I'm in isolation with my kids in anyway, one of my kids has COVID. So whilst I may not be active this week in reaching out to you, please, if we could follow up and have a cup of coffee. I actually like the way that your approach is. I like people who walk the talk. And from my experience in this presentation, the fact that you're out here doing this the way that you're doing this, it occurs to me like this kind of person I'm interested in seeing more about what you do and how you could do this rather than me do it myself.
Love it.
Talk to you about what that
Absolutely.
looks like.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the first thing. And the same goes for Natasha. Natasha, I am your perfect client, I think. So at some point in the next few weeks, if also you don't hear from me, please reach out, because people have been telling me for ages the one thing that's missing in my suite is a book, and my Indigenous background story together with my work would make a good story. So please, if I haven't reached out to you too, please, I'd love to connect.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks, Afrani.
Thanks, Kylie. Yeah, we'll definitely. Natasha, you want to add to that?
Oh yeah, we already messaged on LinkedIn, and I've already connected with everyone. I don't
Look how fast, legend.
I've already connected with everybody, and we're chit chatting there. So all good.
Now let's talk a bit about your content journey, Natasha, because you're doing Facebook Lives. Are you doing them daily, or what's your schedule?
Once a week. Actually, for the last year, I've literally just been interviewing my authors that I already published. I was like, I can't be bothered thinking about new content. My authors can bring the content. And it's actually, like you say, testimonials, case studies. That's exactly what those interviews are. We blast them then from a Facebook Live to YouTube, then onto Anchor FM, which is my podcast, which I don't even know how to log into it. My VA does it. And I've been told lately that people have been listening to it, and that's why they've come to work with us. So it was like, okay. So it was just about, like, as you say, repurposing content. I made a comment in the chat box. We don't do newsletters. We do daily emails. A couple of months ago, actually hired a guy back from my birth country of Macedonia who cold emailed me, and I found his email very engaging. And I said, I want to talk to you.
Nice.
And he followed me up in February. I hired him. And so he does our daily emails. Mm-hmm. And one just actually came out, and they're quite very short, like sort of 150, 200 words, yep. And we don't find that's too much. If people love and they're getting value, they'll stay. And if they unsubscribe, so freaking what? So what? It's just not relevant anymore, or you're not there, it's not a match, or they're not thinking about that anymore. So they can unsubscribe. I don't see or take that personally in any shape or form. And content is king. I mean, I've been doing this 12 years, and with consistency, they do come back. They watch and they watch and they watch, and then all of a sudden, sometimes they've said to me they've been on my database for 10 years, and now they're reaching back out. So there are like people that will reconnect. Only 3% of people are ready to buy from us right now.
That's such a good point, Natasha. Like, I think it's let's remember that, right? Not everyone that touches or connects with you on LinkedIn or whatever is ready to buy. So it's about, how can you show up for them even when you're not there to pitch anything to them necessarily. How can I just add value or tell a great story? For some of us who are storytellers on here, it's people will come back to you over time if they just like who you are or how you show up.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and then they say 3% will buy straight away, but 70% of the 100, whatever's left over, will buy 3 to 18 months later. So make sure you have your long-term follow-up processes set up and all that kind of stuff. It happens to me. I mean, with book writing, that's one thing that a lot of the time, they're not ready right now. They just started researching or whatever, and then you reach back out. And if you're the person that keeps popping up, of course, they're going to learn to know and trust you, and then work with you. So, I love content. It's all about education-based marketing nowadays.
Love it, 100%. Okay, we're going to wrap up. Anyone else got a final question or a comment you want to add before we say bye? All good. All right.
One final question
Yes,
about newsletters. I heard that because we like to use a lot of imagery in this other project I'm working on. And I wonder, because I remember hearing don't use too much imagery because sometimes they're slow to load. So I was like, what's your perspective on that, if there's a brief answer?
So my brief answer would be, if you're running an interior design company and that's what you do for a living and people buy your design work, you need to show visuals. If you're a model and that's what you do, or you're a photographer and that's what people buy from you, you need to show your visuals, right? If you're not, right, if you're like someone like Andre, who works with people's minds and you're working on transformation and inner work, you really don't need visuals for that. Like you know, you can use words to paint a visual, can't you? So you can tell a story. Right. You know, in Natasha's cases, Natasha's really good for hers because her authors literally have book cover images, so she could actually put a book cover image in every single email she sends out, and says, hey, look at this author I just interviewed on my Facebook Live, and she links to that author and here's their book. So it just depends on who your audience is and what are you using. Think about the messaging and what are you conveying with the visual. If you're doing it because you're connected to the old like belief of the 80s, which is like brand is everything and you have to show up stylized and you got to look like PwC and you got to look like, you know, certain top name brands in the world. For those corporate audiences, we get it. If that's your target audience, yes, I would also say yes, you're also at a risk of just focusing too much on the visual and not enough on what's the actual value being transmitted through the message. Right? Yeah, so there's a place for visuals, just don't get carried away.
Yes, I think
what we're seeing now from a technical point of view, Johanna, what's happening is with a lot of email vendors, they're actually stripping out the visuals because they do add additional file sizes to emails. They do get blocked. So a lot of people,
that's what I'm hearing,
using Gmails and things like Gmail by design is just text. And so, you know, you might not even get through if you're using emails. So just keep
thanks.
Okay, so I think that's all. We're going to quick question for you in the chat. I want to hear from everyone that's joined us live. What was most valuable today for you? And if you want to open your mic, you can say something too. But I'd like to hear from each one of you.
I like the 3 Ps, the way you explain them. The positioning, I've written here notes, the positioning, the problem solving and promotional content. I think I need to pass that on to my authors who don't know what to post on social media.
Absolutely. Well, you have a recording of this when it goes live on the podcast, so you can just send that to them. And love it, Nat. Thank you for joining us, and it's been amazing to see you again. Okay, who's next? Shez.
Yeah, I really like that in terms of just organizing your thoughts around what to, you know, how to have little buckets for what to do. And then also the way that, as you said, like the sales funnel, just creating that marketing funnel, because we created a lot of content and you sort of go, oh, is that part of I like to see things in a visual form and like to be able to go, okay, I'm doing this, it's purposeful. There's a reason that we're doing this and it brings it through to the very end. So that was really, really helpful. Now we can take stuff from the marketing funnel and then put that into either one of those 3 buckets as well. Yes,
that's part of it. So something that we can talk about, we'll talk about in an upcoming podcast party will be how to do a content audit. And that's exactly what you're talking about there, Shez. You would actually you just draw out those 3 layers of your funnel and then go, let's look at all our content that we have currently. Where do they fit in the piece? And I'll tell you what, I can guess already, 80+% of what you're doing is at the top of the funnel, right? And so you're going to have a huge gap in the middle, and then you'll have some stuff at the bottom. So beef up the bottom 2 parts of the funnel, okay, with content, all right? Andre.
Sorry, yes. Andre.
Johanna, you ready to go?
Okay, I'll go. I really liked the one piece of content with your video broken down into 18 areas. Using that 18 times in different ways. I thought that was really, that really sparked my imagination, because I prefer to speak than to write.
Yes, and you have a fantastic voice. I'm thinking like radio, podcast. I'm going like I would love just to hear you talk. It's just like amazing, right? So definitely lean into that. And even if you're doing newsletters, you record a short video,
Well,
right?
that's what Andre was saying that too. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna shift this up.
Just drop it in. I've seen people do that. I don't know, Natasha's done that before, but you literally just drop the video into the newsletter. Click here to watch me talk about this, and then here's a transcript. And if you prefer to read it, right? Like that,
really nice, great.
Okay, thanks for joining us, Johanna.
Thank
Andre,
you.
Do you want to share us anything? What was your takeaway today, Andre?
My one was again, you put my attention on that blog that I've been delaying to start off. Gonna happen.
Awesome. Well, we've got reach out to me, any questions at all. We will be doing more stuff on how to optimize and create great blogs. That's going to be one of the topics for our upcoming podcast parties. So definitely I'll let you all know. Please come back if you're interested in that topic. Erica, last person. I think we've had, you're the last person to go. So any final words or takeaways?
Well, I told you my big one. I wrote this one down. I did not write this down because I didn't want to do it, but I think it's important just because you said it. It was make a schedule with SEO. So.
Yep. It's like go on a date with your SEO. I love it. Okay, thank you so much, Erica. I know you're joining us, and it's kind of hitting your afternoon, evening over there. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Our next podcast party, all right, it's happening. What's this wrong date? It is correct. Okay, April 28th. We're doing this again, 8:30 Sydney time or Australian time, Eastern Standard Time. That's Wednesday, April 27 for 5:30 p.m. US Eastern Standard Time. So you can go register. It's the same link, or I'll send it to you afterwards anyway. For all those of you on the call, if you're not on the call and you're listening to the podcast, it's simplecreativemarketing.com/podcast party. Go over, register, jump in on there. There's only 15 spots, and we invite everyone to come and join with us and jam again. Okay, if you haven't already, please subscribe and leave a review for Authentic Influence Podcast. We're creeping up to 100. I'm going to have to bring some of these amazing people onto the show as guests and revisited guests, because I just love jamming with people and learning all about what you're doing and putting out there into the world. And thanks everyone for joining us for our first ever B2B Podcast Party. Have a wonderful day, evening, wherever you are, and enjoy. Do what you do. And as I always say at the end of my email newsletters, live confidently and passionately, and smile. And everyone here is smiling. So I'm so honored to have you on here. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks so much, Anthony.
Thank you. Bravo. That was great.
Well done.
Now, just quickly, if you want to check out the show notes for this episode, just head over to simplecreativemarketing.com/podcast, and you can grab all the links and things and resources on there. And also, if you are a conscious entrepreneur, got a professional services business, working B2B, and you've got an interest in building influence and income through showing up, serving others, and being real, then I invite you to join my Authentic Influence Warriors Facebook group. If you want to do that, just head over to simplecreativemarketing.com/community. Okay, thanks for joining in, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Authentic Influence podcast at AuthenticInfluence.co.